All right, Ian.
Yes.
Speaking on this Nintendo-centric podcast, we had Nintendo online game announcements come again, and they haven't been as regular as they were for the first 6 to 8 months, where you got a few Nintendo games a month. Then they started putting out some Super Nintendo stuff, and then it's been falling off, and it's been more periodic in terms of the releases.
No, it's been downright sporadic.
So the latest ones, though, is a good round of announcements, and I always think it's funny when people say, "Oh, we got to get only these main games on here," or I never heard of this. So the announcements that are coming on May 20th, which brings a total to over 80 classic games. See, I haven't been keeping up with these. I haven't played these in a while. On the Super NES, you get Operation Logic Bomb, Panel de Pon, which is what, Tetris Attack?
Panel de Pon. It's Tetris Attack.
It's the Japanese version. Wild Guns, which is 4.5 stars I reviewed according to a certain Super Nintendo guidebook. And of course, one of my personal favorites on the NES is Rygar. And it goes to show you that, it goes to show you two things. First of all, in the comments, people being so disappointed, at least on social media, about these announcements, not knowing anything about games outside of the popular ones.
Right, because all of these are good to different degrees. Rygar, we talked about last week even. Wild Guns is... I made
a psychic prediction because I said Rygar is a game that some people can't stand, and I love it. And then it gets announced.
Yeah, Wild Guns is fantastic. The only reason I'm not super excited about that is because I have the re-release that they did on the Switch, which is the same plus a little bit extra. Panel de Pon, which is great. I don't know if people just didn't realize what it was, but that's Tetris Attack. They just can't use the Tetris name anymore, so they're using...
that makes sense.
Yeah, so they're bringing the Japanese version over. But that's a game that's generally well-loved. I enjoy it a lot. And then Operation Logic Bomb is the one that most people probably don't know about, and it has a silly name, but it's a sequel to a Game Boy game that I actually really like called Fortified Zone.
Yeah, it's a terrible name, because whenever I think of it, it sounds like a puzzle game or something.
Right, it's absolutely not. But it's basically... it's a sequel to Fortified Zone, which, if I'm going to be very loose with it, is an overhead, almost like not really, but it's, imagine going through Zelda dungeons, but with guns and stuff.
It's a run and gun shooter, self-contained.
Yes, but generally, at least in the Game Boy one, the levels are mazes. You have to find your way out. And stuff
I always like games like that. They don't make a lot of them. I always like games like that.
So it's fun. I'm not saying it's the world's greatest game, but it's not a bad game, and these are games people can have fun with.
Sure.
That said, I do understand the frustration with Nintendo not releasing more. They have the rights to tons of great shit.
Sure.
And we get these drops maybe twice a year at this point.
Well, out of this list, they only have the rights to one of these, right? Out of these 4. So they still got to pay up for this.
Sure.
They've gotten a lot of these good Tecmo NES games.
It's obvious they have some sort of working scenario.
Yeah, Mighty Bomb Jack was one of the first ones that came up
with Tecmo.
But the responses, I got annoyed and replied to one. I usually don't reply to these people. I replied to one who said "Oh, these games are terrible," and I said Rygar is a better game than you deserve. Then people like my response to that, because it's come on, man, try these games out. Rygar, I don't want to re-review Rygar. Rygar was an early NES game that tried to do something different in terms of having a somewhat open world. There wasn't really any games being done like that outside of Legend of Zelda to that extent on the NES. And for the most part, it succeeds in doing a sort of open world in this weird mythological nutsy monster world that works. The theme works for Rygar. The weapon...
It absolutely does.
The weapon, the disc armor is so satisfying to use in that game. For a game that simple, with the sound and sort of the force feedback you kind of get from this armor, it works.
Yep.
Rygar, it works well. You have little minor RPG upgrades as well. I will say this, it's not perfect. No, it's not perfect. It's a very early NES game. But to go from a straightforward arcade game, and Tecmo said, that's not good enough, we're going to do this entirely different concept, and we'll have these overhead areas too.
Giving you that bang for your buck.
Yeah. And yes, it probably contributed to me getting Coke bottle glasses, because it took 2.5 hours to get to that. And as a kid, I never beat that last frickin' the Liger at the end. I never frickin' beat him. the lion head with like all the snakes. And as a kid, I was like, I don't know, am I just not hitting him enough? You had to upgrade your your attack in order to really get him on there. As a kid, I never beat it. I almost feel like go back and beat it now because it really is interesting. And the sound design of that game is excellent. And the soundtrack is underrated on... Tecmo always has good soundtracks, but the soundtrack is one of those sort of underrated...
I would say Tecmo in general is kind of underrated when it comes to the soundtrack game. They usually have some pretty good stuff.
Absolutely. So to see these whippersnappers out here, not to disrespect that, but okay, it was actually one of the top comments, it looks like, because this guy said, wow, guys, disappointment again. No Super Mario RPG, no DK... Donkey Kong Country trilogy. Well, that's rare. It's gonna be hard to get that.
Yeah.
No other RPGs on the Super Nintendo. No Earthbound. No nothing but crap. That's what set me off when I said Rygar is better than you deserve. There you go. And then other people says, hey, don't call Panel de Pon and Wild Guns crap. It's like, well, these aren't crappy games. This isn't filler.
People would be fucking... I think people would be a lot more thrilled about Wild Guns coming out if everyone probably didn't already own the version that just re-released.
I think you're giving too much credit. I just think these are little whippersnappers that don't know any better or know anything about these games.
Oh, they don't. I'm just saying Wild Guns in general would have been that's an expensive fucking SNES game. Up until recently, until the more widely available version came out, I think that would have been really big.
I mean, God, I understand that people like Donkey Kong Country. Is that the end all be all for the Super Nintendo? Like that's what you have to get on here in order to enjoy it? Seriously? I mean, I just don't understand that. Earthbound, I get. Yeah, Earthbound, people would flock to that and play that, right away, because there's a cult following for that. I get that, but it's gonna be hard. It's gonna be hard to get some of those titles that are, Rare has a relationship with Microsoft now. It's gonna be hard to give that up easily to Nintendo. They're not. It's not worth Nintendo probably paying the money out to get the license. It just isn't to them at this point. Anyway, that's all I got to say. There's still good games to be released. I even see people I love and respect. I always say, like, oh, there's nothing left to come out in the NES. No, there's stuff to come out. It's just whether or not they're going to pay for some of these esoteric titles that not many people are going to care about. Because Rygar's not even that esoteric in the NES library. It was a popular game at the time, and people are still shitting on it. So imagine them getting, if they get fucking Power Blade, people would shit on that when it's a good game. You know what I mean? Like, it's diminishing returns.
Shatterhand.
Because you have like a 22-year-old audience that never heard of these games. They're not going to appreciate it. Even the Super Nintendo games, they're obviously not appreciating. We're old men at this point. I mean, God. I mean, if they ever did it, even N64, they'd probably say, "I don't want that. It's too old."
Moving on.